welcome everybody. I don't know how many of you here for the first time into our weekly Zoom. Elad, I see Elad here as well. We have a Zoom meeting almost every week, and usually either we have a guest like Mark, or we have a conversation about a subject or networking. It's a weekly Zoom every Monday, 9 p.m. Israel time. And this week we have the honor. I don't see your partner yet, but he might join us in some point.
He has a special entrance.
Yeah, he's waiting for everybody to arrive first. We have today Mark Klinger that was kind enough to carve some time for us. Mark is a super experienced GC, working in multiple states in the United States, Florida. I'm not going to try to say it, but next to Boston. How do you say it?
Massachusetts.
Massachusetts. It's something that yes, Israelis can say. Connecticut, New Jersey, whatever you guys want.
Houston.
Yes, he's also a developer himself, so he has both angles, and he's half Israeli, so he knows how easy to deal with us. So we're going to discuss that with him as well. How do we look from the other side of the table? Mark, you want to start? Yes. You want me to ask? Introduce yourself. And by the way, the idea to have Mark is Eyal's. Mark is Eyal Price partner. Somebody doesn't know who Eyal Price is, that's a big issue by itself. He's Mark's partner. He suggested Mark, and while we're having a barbecue in Florida, we agreed to do so. Mark invited us for a barbecue in his house in Florida, and that's where we closed the deal. Mark.
Okay.
Your time now.
All right. Thank you very much, Tal. And I always appreciate all the work that you do online to promote this, to help out the Israeli community here in the States and in Israel in order to increase their business and make their lives a bit easier in trying to get into the market in the United States, which sometimes sounds easy, but it's not as easy as we think it is, because we know with our experience what can come up and how to deal with it. So I want to start by just saying my name is Mark Klinger. I was born and raised in New York on Long Island. For the past, I would say 16 to 18 years, I've been in the construction and real estate industry. I did very high-end construction in New York City. Park Avenue, Fifth Avenue, Soho, we're talking about $40 to $70 million apartments and redoing them and rebuilding from the inside out. And New York City is a very, I'm sure some people in here know, is a very difficult place to do business. A lot of people say if you could do business in New York City, you could do business anywhere. So taking that, I went into multiple states, and I always felt that, hey, if I could do it in New York City, I could do it anywhere else, which I believe is the truth. And I'm not going to be an akshan or anything like that, but you could do it anywhere.
I agree.
So with that, a few years ago, I moved down to Florida. I was in construction for quite some time in New York City, and it takes a toll on you after doing it for a very long time. You have to come to a different understanding of how to do construction, because the people I dealt with were much richer than I will ever be. And if one mistake, one leak of a pipe that goes onto a painting that's worth $40 million, your life is over. They could take everything from you in New York. It was very stressful, and you had to make sure everything's happening, and hiring the right subcontractors. They could be the best in the world. They all make mistakes. So it was a lot of pressure. And then I went into real estate as well for quite some time now. I went to partnership with Eyal Price a number of years ago, and it's been wonderful. It always helps to speak with people and work with people that have had similar experiences to share the risk, I would say, right? And to share the responsibilities. So moving back into the construction field, coming down to Florida, I opened up a construction company down here when I thought I wasn't going to do it again. So I'm still owning and operating a construction business down in Florida, but I also do the management of all of our development deals and construction management and help hiring. It helps a lot to understand construction here in order to get into real estate in the States. So part of this whole process is to really discuss, how do I pick the right contractor, right? You guys, let's say you buy a house, you want to flip it. Where do you want me to go to?
Mark, I'm going to stop you for a second. Before we go into that, because that's a very subject, but I want to start, and we discussed it a little bit before. I want to start with something else, which I think is on everybody's mind right now, before picking a constructor. It's something that we discussed a little bit in Florida as well. I would like to hear your point of view on market condition right now, especially with inflation. Mm-hmm. Looking back to 3-4 years, and now inflation kicking in, and now another layer of difficulty, which is of course interest rate. Yes. With everything. So maybe
since we met, a lot has happened since we met. And it's really hard to say. There are articles written in the newspapers every day. I'm reading an article saying it's very bad. I'm reading an article saying it's very good. I would tell you this, for the next 2 years, we should be okay. Even with interest rates going up, because we had such low interest rates for so long, right? 2%, 3%, it was unheard of to get a mortgage. So if you want to flip, right, you want to make sure that the person buying is paying an increase in price, so your profit is up, so that you can get somebody a mortgage of 4%, 3%, and they're paying less for owning a house than they are renting a property, right? At that point, then you have the people that will never be able to get a mortgage because they have very bad credit, and renting is very good. But now that, since the sales market is going up, the rental market's going up. So you see them both fighting each other, right? If you could get the mortgage, you're lucky enough to go into it. If you could get the rental, that's great, but you're still paying high. It's not like it was 2 years ago. Everything's going up and up and up. And then what happens with inflation? You could bust, right? You hear of a bust in real estate all the time. But I wouldn't think that any time in the near future is there going to be a bust. The reason being is that in the United States right now, I would say we're still short over 5 million homes to be built for the demand that we have, okay? And if you're a renter, if you want to buy properties to rent, it's also a good time to start bringing those in now, because when in 2 years from now that there's maybe a recession and inflation is too high and the interest rates are going too high, everyone's going to want to rent. They're not going to want to, pay the mortgage that high to get such a good house. So you're in between something right now, which we're really not 100% sure. But yes, it definitely is scary what's going on. But the bottom line is we're short homes. We need homes. That's the bottom line. Demand is there.
Yeah, but one of the questions that keeps coming up in my head, by the way, not coming up in my head.
Okay.
Going back, if you're going back a couple of years ago, there was never a conversation about the fact that there is not enough homes to sell. Just before the pandemic, if you're going back to late 2019, the beginning of 2020, this conversation, nobody had this conversation.
Yes.
Which means that at that point, nobody felt it. And now during the pandemic, there is so many houses, are not enough inventory, there is not enough houses. And the question is, now that COVID is winding down, nobody talks about it anymore. People start coming out, masks are off. Well, you're in Florida, you never had masks on, but masks are off. People that maybe held on to their house during the pandemic will bring it back to the market. People that didn't pay the mortgages during the pandemic some of them at least will go to foreclosure because they can afford closing the gap that they opened. It wasn't a forgiveness program, it was only delayed payment program. The question is that, and now interest rate going up, so demand gonna go down. is that gonna maybe balance it a little bit to the point that say, you know what, demand is not that crazy like it was during the pandemic, everybody's fleeing. Maybe we actually will see a slowdown. I don't know if it's a crash, but a slowdown. City institution.
It will happen over time. It always happens, right? There's always, everything is a cycle. The stock market is a cycle. The real estate market is a cycle. We all go through it. We could look in the history and see really what's going to happen now because it pretty much has always repeated itself. But to what you're asking, right now, there's still only 3 to 4 weeks of inventory in the country. Okay. 3 to 4 weeks of inventory in the country. You got no inventory. Nobody could sell. I just this morning met with a very high-end residential real estate agent, and she said to me, I can't find anything. I can't. People want $5, $10, $15 million homes. She says there's nothing for the higher end. So I would say to work our way down, the high end will be the last to feel it, which typically happens, and then you work your way down. But I still think that due to the fact that we have really no inventory in the history of house sales, we really have not much at all. There's a building boom going on with a shortage of materials and people, which we're going to get into in this conversation, right? So it's not happening as fast as we want. So I think it's going to spread out a bit more. I don't think we should worry too much. I personally am worried about interest rates climbing. It can't go too high. If it goes too high, our entire economy over here is going to have a very big problem. So because we can't raise interest rates too quickly in order for us to have it's a whole process. I'm not going to get into it right now. It's above my head in the end as well. But you just have to read about it. Try to find articles written about it. Read from both ends and make your own decision on how it's going to go. But the real estate market is still very strong, even with interest rates going up.
Fair enough.
Can I ask another question about this subject, Tal? I want to continue your strongest line, because, I think all of us, that in this event now, it's Jewish. And as Jewish, we know that the hardest collapse usually happen when everybody thinks that it's the best time, in the best market, and there is no inventory, and everybody looking for properties or whatever it is. And when we look now, as you talk about the interest and about the stock market, like companies like Facebook, Roblox, like 70, 50, 60% of prices. Don't you think that, and there is a lot of city in the US that, the average people cannot buy, below $1 million a property or an apartment, which is crazy, because we are basically not the average people. We are doing it as a business. This is our flow. We already a lot of years in the business. But the average guy that want to buy an apartment, average family starting their life, the prices, it's doesn't make any sense. And it's not only in the US, it's like almost all around the world. So don't you think that Tel Aviv become most expensive city in the world? But I live in Spain, okay? And it's exactly the same, and Greek, it's exactly the same. And so don't you think that we are like in the top of the bubble? Because if we look back at 2008 and we see, all the high-tech company was like the extreme, it's going to explode. It's nothing. And then in one day, 3 days, 50, 60% off. So don't you really think that something is going to come?
So I don't think it's going to be like 2008. And the reason why is in 2008, it was the banks. The banks would give somebody's housewife that lied on a piece of paper saying they're making $300,000 a year and they could take out 8 mortgages easily. This was the problem. If anybody in here has filled out the paperwork for a mortgage these days, they're still very strict. And they have very strict criteria, especially for the commercial banks. So it's definitely different, but yes, there is a bubble, and the bubble can only expand so much until it pops. Okay. I don't think it's going to pop and fall down. I think we're going to deflate and then reset a little bit. I don't think it's going to be like 2008. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know 100%, but I did live through 2008. I was in construction and real estate back then. I saw what was happening, and me personally, I got out of a few deals. Some other people didn't, and they got in a lot of trouble. I thankfully got out of a bunch of deals before the pandemic too, because I had Section 8 people renting. If I had to hold on to those buildings, I would probably not have been able to meet my mortgage, but the government allowed me not to pay it, right? So we don't see right now all the foreclosures, because that would be great business for everybody here, right? Everything is going down. The foreclosures would be great for everyone. I haven't seen it. I've been waiting for it for a long time and did not see it. I don't know why. And I think that market's going to come up pretty soon to help out. And that might be part of the deflation process. And also deflation process will be the increase in the interest rates as well. But I really don't believe they could go too high up. They can't go to 10. They can't go back into the 1980s when it was 14%. You know, Ronald Reagan raised it all the way up to fight the inflation, right? And then it went back down. We can't go that high up because that will just destroy everything. And I hope we don't do that. I don't know who's in charge or if they have the moach to make the right decisions, but we're at the you know, it is what it is. we can't really do much. But yeah, your question is a great question, and I think we're definitely different than 2008. And I'm hoping that it just doesn't explode. People are still making lots of money. I also think the difference between the wealthy and the poor is getting wider again. It's a little bit different. But bottom line is still we need the housing. We had a lot of housing back then. Now we have really minimal, more than anywhere, you know, that we've had in a very long time.
And another question: what do you think that, you know, basically, especially in the areas that you're working right now, and you know, in general, what do you think about the situation that becomes now? And again, in a lot of places in the world, that the average family, the average people cannot buy an apartment. You know, I'm not talking about a luxury apartment, you know, apartment to live, average family. What do you think about that? And how do you think that it's going to influence the market?
Yes. So there are a lot of people like that, but there are also a lot that can. You see people buying apartments the size of this office here, this room, you know, my house for $500,000 to $1 million. Like it's crazy, especially like you mentioned, New York City, like Miami Beach and all that. But it's a very large country. Every city has suburbs outside of it. And those areas are going to start getting built up with more affordable housing. But the problem is, for the builder, it's not affordable because our costs have gone up more than double. So how are we going to combat that? Is the government going to help? Is inflation going to catch up? Are salaries going up so these people could afford it? I don't know. Elon Musk, you know, recently came out with this $15,000 little home. Maybe he's saving all of us, and he's like Mashiach of, you know, of everything. He's bringing us to space in case we kill ourselves, right? We blow up the whole country. We could go to Mars now. He has everything figured out. So there's other things, even containers. I have a friend in Houston, Texas, and he's building, you know, with shipping containers to try to make affordable houses. Yes. So that's another process that's available out there. But still, you have your walls, you still need the sheetrock, you still need the wiring, you need the AC system, you need everything still, but you don't need as much lumber.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sagi, you must have a question, Sagi. I see it in your face.
If I'm talking too fast, let me know, please. Hi, Sagi.
Hey, how you doing, Mark? So, listen, I hear what people are asking you, and now I don't know.
First of all, Mark, you know Sagi?
Yes.
Okay. Now, okay.
Yeah, we know each other. What?
The phone.
Sagi is a builder for everybody else. Sagi is also a builder. He works in Houston, so it's builder to builder.
Yeah, kind of. I don't have as much experience as Mark has, and you know, as you said, if you build in New York, you probably develop some kind of a resistance. But
thick skin.
Yeah, thick skin for sure. Now, going about the affordable housing, I mean, I heard what my previous colleague said about the average family cannot afford an apartment or a house. I do not agree that much. You know, I'm sure you know all the FHA loans, the first-time home buyers, kind of equivalent to Israel, what we have here. My segment is very very low. We go into the low 200s to the mid-high 300s, which is first-time home buyers. And
yeah,
no, we don't see the inflation over there. We do have the issue, like you mentioned, in terms of the cost. There's nobody, you know, I'm trying. I started my week this morning trying to price new lots, you know, to build.
What you don't get?
I don't know. I don't know.
It's tough. And if the rates would stay down, then the larger numbers would be more affordable. That's what's been great over the past bunch of years. The rates were so low, they could afford, average family can afford a $300,000 home, because it's like paying for what a $500,000 or $600,000 home used to be way back when, because of the interest rates. Now that's going up, it's going to make it much more difficult. And that's where
there is no stability. I mean, any way you look at it, I mean, from the cost of the land, the cost of construction. I'm sure you're dealing with city of Houston. I mean, I know Houston. I don't know what's going on around me, but in city of Houston, between today and to God knows when, you know, an inspector is going to come, or if you submit in new orders for the permit. Yeah. Who knows? So that's how do you know, when you look at a new project, if you need to evaluate it, if you what are you know, I'll tell you
what we've done. So, you know, we've been bitten, you know, we've lost money in our construction because the municipality took 6 months for approvals. Now, whether it was hiring the wrong expediter, whether it was somebody on vacation in the town, there was a million excuses of what would have went wrong, right? Within those months of waiting for the approval, there's a lot of back and forth, you know, with the engineers and architects. It's not just, you know, the expediter's fault, but within that time, prices went up 20%. And do you go back to your client now and say, hey, you have to pay 20% more? What do you do? So what we started doing was, in our contract with the client, we would say, okay, we will eat the first 5% of cost increase, the rest is on you. That's for if you're a GC and a homeowner hired you to do work on their house. So that takes care of that. As a builder to sell, on the other end, you don't know. You may have to, you'll have to eat that, or just increase the sale price, and it will stay on the market or drop longer.
Okay.
Again, I work in Atlanta. In our market, we just being advised not to, basically not to pre-sell, because not to pre-sell, because you don't know what you're going to end up with.
Yeah, but it's a big debate, because, for example, and Tal was with me last week or 2 weeks ago in Houston. It was with me when I got a call from a larger fund that, you know, want to offer and buy a whole project, 20 units, 10 that are pretty much ready and 10 are out of dirt. So it's very tempting. You know, we can have somebody come in one shot and buy a whole project from you. So the question is, what do? You know, how can you determine what's going to be the cost? Nobody knows the cost.
Yes.
You know, like we said, Mark, before, I mean, we don't know actually what's going to happen. So on one hand, you want to run forward because money costs money, and we don't know what's going to happen with the interest rate.
Yeah.
There is different ways to protect yourself. Whether, like Mark said, that you can absorb a percentage, and then the rest the buyer gonna absorb. There is other ways, which is, of course, going back to the beginning when you made especially somebody is whoever is not on mute. Who is that? Somebody's making us some noise. Giora.
Oh, there you go.
Put yourself on mute, Giora. I'll find him. Where is he? Giora, mute. I muted him. Other way to do it, of course, is going back to, especially if you guys starting now a project, just take a bigger or wider cushions, construction-wise, and when you calculate, just take wider cushions. Worst come to worst, you're gonna make more money. Of course, you can always do a sensitivity test and put in the model if somebody doesn't know how to do a sensitivity test, what happened if costs go 10%? And then you need to realize that this is what might happen the next 10 or 12 or 24 months, or whatever. So there is ways to curve it. Of course, waiting for the end, it's another way, like you have discussed, which is to sell it at the end, but then you take the risk that if something happened 2 years down the road, you paid more and you sold it for less, you actually lost more. So there is good and bad for everything. Let's continue, Mark.
Okay, so going back to that question that Sagi brought up is how fast can you build, right? Can anybody build that fast these days? Not unless you're $1 billion company and you have your hands in everything and you get the first shot. I saw about 100 units go up in almost 6 months down here in Florida, okay? That's unheard of, but you have these multi-billion-dollar corporations that have the in-house team in order to do that. So how do they do it? They prepare, right? So let's say you're about to do a project, you're about to build something or do a flip. You must have all that money up front, which depending on your loan, how are you going to do it? I think the banks will work with you now to do it, or the hard money lenders. Try to buy everything now, knowing that there will be a delay, right? Everything is almost 16 weeks out. Everything. Imagine everything 16 weeks out. So if you know you're going into a deal, maybe in your contract, you say, okay, we're buying this. Here's the down payment. We're in contract. We're going to close in 3 months. Maybe prolong the contract close so that you could get your contractor to start buying. Or you know you're going to a deal, you're holding on to a contract. You got to start buying now. You speak to your window supplier. You speak to your lumber yard. Do you have this available? Do you have that? You have to try to plan in advance of what your issues might be. And we know everything is a long lead time. Roofing material, right? We had our you know, in a project, the company that we ordered the roof, one of the biggest in the country, they screwed up the order. Now they're said to us 28 weeks wait. And we're like, what do you mean? We're supposed to get it in 3 to 4 weeks. How could it be 28 weeks now? So we went in, we made trouble with them. We went in and we yelled and this, we're going to get it earlier because we were trying to say, anybody cancels, you give it to us. So you have to also go the extra step to get what you need. There's no like sitting back in the office and like, okay, you know, oh, 28 weeks. Okay, everybody 28 weeks. Goodbye. I'm going to go sip my martinis at the pool. No, you have to push and fight very, very hard. And that's from New York City is what taught me how to do. You had to fight for everything in New York City. And that's what helped me. And that's all over the country now. It's like you're building in New York everywhere. You're fighting for that extra piece of wood. You're fighting for that sheetrock. You're fighting for the concrete to be delivered to you before the next guy, right? And it's all about building relationships. It's a very stressful time, but people are building every day. We could still build. There's a shortage. There's shortage of people, shortage of material, but we're still building every single day, and we will get there slowly but surely. You know, I was once on a trip to India, and I look at these big, huge buildings, and I see guys in diapers carrying, you know, dirt on their head in a bowl that I don't even know if they ever seen a dollar in their life, and they're working on these massive job sites. And I said to the guy, I go, how are they? He goes, slowly but surely, eventually it gets built, and they build beautiful buildings there. So we will get to that point. But then again, money costs money, right? Every month is more money out of the pocket if you're taking a loan. You know, you're going to have to deal with it. The banks now are understanding that it's taking longer. So they're not going to penalize you like they would back in the day where they said, hey, if you can't build that quickly, something's wrong with you. You're a new person. You don't know how to build. We're going after you. Now you have to speak to your banks. Call them up and say, hey, we're going past because of this issue and that issue. They understand the issues there because it's not just you, it's everybody they're lending to, and they're being understanding. So word of advice, when your money's costing you money every month, talk to your bank, let them know everything's going on. If you're not talking to your bank and it's going past, they think that you're lying to them. You must be in touch with them. That's a a very big thing that we should do. Same thing with credit card companies, right? You're doing call the credit card company, hey, I'm in the construction business. I'm going to be short on some dollars. Like, hey, you have a $30,000 bill this month. You have to pay it now. You say to them, hey, I will pay you $5,000 by the first week. Another $5,000, like, just let them know what you're doing, and they're not going to ruin your credit or close down your card. So you have to be in constant contact with everybody and work everybody to fight through these times of the difficulty of going, building fast and getting things done as quick as some people were used to. And if you're just getting into the business, it used to be much faster.
If you're just getting into the business, don't. No, I'm joking. How available today from, I'm going to ask two questions. I have. First of all, the pre-construction walls and all of this available as, I know the answer, but I'm going to ask a question anyway. Pre-constructed walls that are being prepared. There is an Israeli company, by the way, just got millions from this fund to do it. Pre-constructed wall that just come and assemble at the site. Is that option as a construction, a way to construct houses are available?
It is, especially
modular.
Now.
What?
Oh, sorry.
Modular home, no?
It's a type of a modular home, yes. Not there, but yes.
Okay, so yeah, these days with the cost, so okay, I've looked into that, and so has Eyal many times, to see if it's worth it to build wood by wood, stick building they call it, or ordering from a pre-manufactured plant and they deliver it to you. It was always cheaper to build with framers on site and ordering all the lumber from a lumberyard. Okay, they say, oh, it's $70 a square foot and you have a finished house. That's not it. You must do your homework. Anybody that tells you they could do your whole house at $70, $80, even 90 or 100, they're not giving you the whole truth. Because don't forget, you have to put your slab, you have to get your plumber and electrician in there to run everything beforehand. You got to do your permits, your architectural, all this. So, okay, if they say 70, you're already at 85 now. Now, let's go to once they put it together, you have a crane, you have shipping, depending how far it is. Did they include the shipping price? They include the crane to lift everything and put it in place. Then you need the people to be there once they put in place. Who's making the connections? Who's finishing the joints? There's still so many trades that need to go in there that you must be careful when this happens. I had another friend, he's a very big real estate guy in the 5 towns where Eyal lives, and he went in to flip a house and he did it modular. And he told me he lost his shirt. He lost all the money he would have ever made on it because he didn't know. He thought it was, oh, $80 a square foot, good, go right ahead. Like, if you don't understand building, you don't understand the little things that come along with it that cost money. So that was his big mistake on that. So these days, like Sagi, for instance, I think in Texas, there are plenty of modular home places. There's like up north by like Oklahoma or Alabama, they have a few. And if you're close enough to these places and the shipping, right? Because you have trucks, right? Trucks take diesel. Diesel is through the roof. Truck drivers aren't driving because they're not being treated properly. So what are you going to do? They're just running to your project and delivering. It's going to cost much more money. So if you're close to a manufacturer, it may make sense to go to modular pre-built style to deliver. I think that is the factor these days, is if you're close to one, then it makes sense because they may make a deal for you because it's easier for them to produce and ship out there much quicker. It's less stress for them. Because imagine the stress of finding a trucker to go from Alabama to South Florida. It's very difficult these days. So
just want to add, if I may, to your to the pre-construction homes, it's also, it depends on where you build those, because not every municipality, for example, in Houston, I think certain areas they would not allow you to bring those units, and I'm surprised, and I would like to have a little private discussion with you afterwards about the container homes, because this is something, me personally, I'm looking for in the past 4 or 5 years maybe, and I know that Houston is being very, very difficult on those. And I think now it makes sense more than ever as lumber is skyrocketing. find, you know, different options to build. How do you see those coming? I mean, because the banks are a little, you know, hesitating when it comes to untraditional kind of building that is not sticks.
Yes, you're right. And also, I think in Houston, also you could do concrete and block. So if you do concrete and block, it's even better because of your insurance reasons for all the hurricanes that come. You could waterproof it better with less rot, less you know, insects eating the wood and everything. So concrete's another option to go with trusses. But then again, there's also a shortage of that. To try to fight for the concrete truck, you think they're coming this week, they say they're 2 weeks out. It happens
also,
all the time.
But also the manpower that knows how to build in concrete and how to do the iron framing. Those are also not easy to find out.
Yeah, they're doing the mega homes. They're making big money over there. They're not going to go to a smaller house in a smaller community.
Okay, so that's going to bring me to the second question that I had. If there is any conversation, especially manpower now, that we all feel it in every aspect of life, but our business is real estate, so we focus on real estate. That there is any conversation about bringing foreign workers. In Israel, by the way, it's very popular, bringing Chinese workers or whatever, as these huge companies just bring, I don't know, hundreds of people, and they're doing an excellent job, by the way. They are great builders.
Yeah.
There is a conversation now about allowing foreign workers to come into the US to gap this lack of manpower.
Okay. I mean, I would ask Sagi that. Sagi, Texas has opening with tens of thousands of people coming through. Are they coming to work, or are they getting free money from our government to drink all day?
Having drinks, and that's what they do all day long. Yeah.
Different country, different ways of looking at it. They're going to make sure you have papers. You make sure you need your papers, except when you come through Mexico. It's a very strange situation here. I wish there was a real answer to that. It's very difficult. It really is. We should be able to. There are plenty of people able to work here, but when we're giving the handouts to people that they could sit at home, who would want to stand on a ladder, almost kill themselves to frame somebody else's house for, you know, $10, $15, $20 an hour when they could sit at home and make more than they've ever made because the government's giving them money. It's very weird times.
Also a matter of liability. You can't bring somebody that is not qualified, or you cannot, you know, make sure that he's indeed qualified and insured, that afterwards, God forbid, something happened, Versailles.
You organize it properly, but okay. Let's continue, Mark, to our next subject, unless somebody else has a question here regarding...
I have a question.
Sure, Shmuel.
Yes. So regarding what Sagi said about the prices in the suburbs, that they're already starting now by about 200 to 300. What I see here in Austin, Texas, that the suburbs even starting by higher than 300, 350, and 400, even in the suburbs. And what I see that people are starting to buy mobile homes or manufactured homes for the same, almost the same prices as a traditional building. What do you think about that?
So when you say mobile homes, it's about RVs where they could drive around, or they rent the land and they have
yeah, like they became to be real estate, but manufactured homes. So
yeah, they just sit it on there.
Wide.
They have 2 bedrooms and a bathroom and a kitchen and a small den, and that's it. Yes, that's a huge business. It's a very big business. I know somebody in it, I have a friend in it, that wants to buy up as much mobile home land as he can, because it's like I said, people have to figure out a way to live through this. So if you're in Austin, right, there's got to be, outside of Austin, you've got a lot of land over there. So someone's got to just drop something and say, okay, I'm building over here. But the problem is, fine, the land is worth very small compared to buying land in Austin, but to build it is going to be the same price, maybe even more, because it's further away. So it is a situation where it's hard to find affordable housing for people in that section of it, because I know Texas was known for, hey, I'm moving to Texas because for $250,000, I could get a 3,500 square foot home as opposed to paying $1 million in Long Island, New York. And that was great. That's not the case anymore. It's very difficult to find that. Will you find that in Nebraska? I don't know. Kansas City is booming right now, booming. You can, maybe in Iowa, I don't know. Tennessee, no way. Atlanta, impossible. Anywhere in Georgia, it's hard to find that unless you're building multifamily, right? Because those go up quicker and you don't have to go into as much detail, and smaller. Those are more affordable if you do a condo for multifamily. So if you could find a building and build out 30, 40, 60, 80, even 100 units in a section, that's where you could probably get to the condominium level of the 200 to 300s now, not 80, not 100, not 2. You're talking about condos now at that range. So people have to not have a house. They will have to go to a condo which hopefully has some amenities for them, like a pool or a gym, but most probably won't. That would be the next bet. And I just saw an article today in regards to banks. So this is in Florida specifically. Everybody knows, or most people know, that in Miami, a building was sinking and the engineers did nothing about it and it collapsed. And I think close to 200 people died in it because the management company was too cheap to spend the money to do it. And there wasn't enough laws in place to make sure that they do it. They kept saying, okay, I'm going to put a little bit of tape and we'll push it off till the next meeting. And look what happened. So now what the banks are saying is, I will not give you a loan unless I know that your condo development has passed all of these restrictions and that engineering is good, it's solid, it's on a good foundation, no sinking, and that you have real people there. They're not going to give you loans. And these are qualified people. We're talking about a high upper middle class. If the building has not passed its engineering, they will not give a loan for it. So, you know, what I'm trying to say is that there's all different aspects of this. So even on the higher end, we need to make sure that we're building the right way so that now banks will be happy to give a loan, right? They want to make sure you get your C of O. They need to make sure they do the inspection and that it's a good product to pay this amount for. So no matter what, when we do construction, we have to give them something nice. I think we need to go the extra level to build better, because the person that built that building 40 years ago will go to jail. If they find that he skipped on something, they could prove it, he'll go to jail from something from 40 years ago. Nobody wants that. We want to make sure that we build it properly to code. We pass all our inspections. We don't give the guy money under the table to say, please pass me, because I know these guys are not licensed or insured. We have to build correctly. It costs more money. But you don't want the trouble on your shoulders your whole life when you go to sleep at night, knowing that maybe there'll be a fire in there because the electrician was very bad and it could spark. We don't want, as a contractor, you worry about these things. You get woken up in the middle of the night with things. Hey, I smell smoke. I smell this. I smell that. Even, I've had fires. I mean, I've had a lot of unfortunate, being in this business for so long, a lot of unfortunate things happens on job sites, and you have to deal with your lawyers and it's not, and the insurance companies, and they will bankrupt you in a minute. The insurance companies, for sure, especially New York, and New York State Insurance Fund, which is the insurance for the employees, right? It's your workman's comp.
Okay, yeah.
I could go.
I have a question.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Look at that.
He's in the middle of a sentence and you're like, I have a question.
This is I thought it's done. By the way, he's already get used to it, but I teach him how to be an Israeli. But no, sorry, so continue, please.
I just want to go into the insurances. Like when you hire a contractor, listen, sometimes we need it to be as cheap as possible. We know he doesn't have it, but he comes through a friend of a friend. We should try to figure out a way to make sure they're licensed and insured, because God forbid anything happens, it's going to be your fault, not theirs. Yes, we're running it maybe from Israel or from another place, even from a different state. You're responsible here, and we want to make sure we are covered. So even if you're going to spend a few thousand more, try to find somebody with the proper insurance so that you don't have those headaches as a real estate professional hiring a contractor. So you should always ask the contractor, are you licensed and insured? And make sure that if he has his own employees, that they have workman's comp insurance. You have liability and workman's comp insurance. And then the subs, let's say he hires an electrician or a plumber, they need to have the proper insurances and licenses too, because they need to pull permits and that has to be inspected. Now, I'm guilty of it too. I would look at a certain thing like, okay, you're not licensed, perfect. I'm going to save $20,000. I'll use you, but I know what I'm looking for. Okay, I'm watching them. I have the benefit of being able to do that. Is it the right way? I'll tell you now, nobody's perfect. I didn't do it the right way, but I knew how to look over them and make sure that they were building correctly. Not every contractor knows how to read plans. You have architectural plans, big pieces of paper. The guy could have 30 years experience and you open up the plans in front of him. He doesn't know what he's looking at. He's looking at black and white and little scribbles and he doesn't know anything he's looking at. If you know what to do, you test the guy. You say, oh, in the upper corner of the master bedroom, you see where it says it, you point it out. I can't, you try to test these guys out to make sure they know what they're talking about. We have to, being in the real estate industry, I have worked with a lot of big developers and big real estate people. They know this business. One of them is an Israeli guy. He built a 35-story building in Manhattan. Okay. His name, if I remember the builder, you guys know him. He's very well known in Israel also. It's not Adam America, it's something else, but he used to have something to do with it. Big, big company. He knows, you cannot go into a meeting with this developer and think that you know more than him. He educated himself. He knows everything about construction for a 34-story building. You can't get the bullshit past him. And that's how we should all be. If we're in this business, we have to understand what it is to build, what materials we need. And listen, we don't know it from the beginning. We're going to teach ourselves as we go. The first one could be a fuck up. Second one could be not such a bad. A third one, oh my God, I made so much money. Fourth one, I'm making great. 5, 10, 15. Numbers 16 through 18 could be boom, I went down and then back up. It's always like this. Every entrepreneur is never like that. Or they don't start up here and only go up. They start from the bottom and they work their way, they go up, then they go down and then up again. And that's where the gray hairs come in from. Right, Sagi? You know what I'm talking about.
You're the one that goes this way?
Yeah.
You know what happened to them? They cave down this way as well.
They go even faster. Yeah. So it's always like the stock market, a little bit up and down, a little bit up and down. You're learning.
Repetition.
Yes. And as you do that, you get better and better. And it's more of a fine line. Eyal, my friend, what was your question?
Sorry. He's going to answer a phone in the middle of asking you a question. So
I have a question. I'm sorry, I'm interrupting your time. Question, quick one.
Okay, short one, because we want to continue in another subject that is important.
But because he is your partner, you give him the right to ask before me?
Oh, you were on the phone.
No,
ask, Sagi. Talk. Ask, Sagi.
If you, Mark, if you have, but you don't have to answer now. We can, maybe you'll answer throughout the
transition.
If you have to think today, new construction, multifamily, single family, and then build to own, build to rent, build to sell, high end, low end, or mid end,
I have a great answer to that. And I was discussing it today with that real estate agent and another one of our local partners. So I can answer that, but I want to see if Eyal has a similar question before. We'll try to knock 2 out. I'll go into that.
No, my question is not on the macro. Everybody is speaking with you about the macro. I want to go to the micro because not everyone in the audience are doing big construction, 140 and the new houses. I want to ask you about the flips. Although I know the answer, but I want everyone to enjoy your knowledge. Is in what stage you decide that the contractor that you are dealing with, or the GC that you are dealing with, we're not going to deliver anymore. And is it worth to cut or not cut?
Let's do it differently. Yeah, let's do it differently. Sagi, I'm going to put your question on hold because I want to make sure that we cover a couple of subjects. And then if you're going to have time, we're going to go back to it in the end. Mark, I want to transition, if it's okay with you, just because I'm keeping track of time. One of the main things that as a developer, or I'm not going to say a GC, but as a developer, especially when you are abroad in Israel or wherever you are, is choosing a constructor, dealing with a constructor while we're doing the project, and at the end, of course, going back to what Eyal said, if it doesn't work, what are the red flags that this is time to end the relationship and find a new one. So for you being a developer and a constructor on the other end, how do you see this? What should we look into a constructor when we're choosing one? What are the red flags? What, in your opinion, is the best way to communicate him? Do I micromanage him? I don't micromanage him. In what cases I do that or doesn't do it? Give me your opinion on this.
Okay, so number one is ask for referrals, at least 3 referrals from them. Of course, they're never going to give you a bad referral, but you never know. Maybe they don't have any. Maybe they've never done 3 good jobs. You never know, right? And even if somebody complains, it's good because you could figure out, okay, it wasn't his fault. These people are crazy, right? You could figure that out. So that's number one. Get some referrals, right? Try to see some of his work. Does he have a web page from his business to see that he has pictures on Instagram or Facebook or a website? Is his work looking nice, or is he copying work from house.com because you've seen it someplace and this guy's a fake already? So that boom like this, you could get this guy out. If it comes from a friend, right? The friend says, oh, I've used this guy, he's awesome. Okay, so ask them, I need one good thing and one bad thing you learned from this guy. What's good and bad about him? Because no contractor is ever perfect. I'm not perfect, Sagi's not perfect, Bill Clinton's not perfect, it's fine. We could figure out these things with basic conversations with people. We have to be smart about it. Not just that, oh, he came in cheap, he's hired. Because this is what you have to look out for. When you look for contractors, get 3 contractors, right? When you get the numbers, you look into, do the numbers, is the scope of work the same that they're bidding on, right? That's the first thing. We call it over here, are we comparing apples to apples, right? It's not apples to oranges, then we can never say if one price is better than the other. We need to make sure they're very close in the scope of work. So when you're looking to hire a contractor, maybe you hand him a scope of work that you know you want done, and you tell him, please price this out. Now you know you're going to get the same price on that scope of work. That's number one. Number two is when he gives you the price, you speak with him, about the prices, where he came up with it, what materials is he using, right? We have to be sure that he's not using a white tile he had on another job and he has leftovers, and then he goes to another place and uses another white tile. We have to be very specific with the contractor. There are too many gray areas in construction work that can always go bad. As specific as you could be. And you'll see, when you're very specific, you're still not specific enough. You have to be sure of what you want. Do you want white paint or brown paint on the wall, right? If you don't say white paint, he's going to paint brown because he has extra paint from another job. If you like trim to be flat and plain, but he's using a fancy one, okay, that's not the look you were going for. You even to the trim, basically it's the wood that goes around the door, or around the windows, or the base moldings around the floor. You must be more specific. That's number one. And then you could compare apples to apples.
Do you, on that specific pricing wise?
Yeah, I'm right here. 1 second.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, keep going. I just have to turn on the fan.
When you're asking pricing wise, I'm gonna go a little bit into details. I know what I like, but do you asking for just a number for the job, or do you ask for a breakdown per material and labor?
If it's just one number, me as a contractor, I would love to just give you one number and you accept it, because then I have the upper hand on top of you, right? I've done it. I did a million plus dollar construction project, and I gave them one number. I didn't break it down for them. They didn't ask. But that gives me a lot of protection. It gives me a lot of protection as a contractor. But would I ever allow that? Never.
Yeah.
But they have plans, you know, they have just to be fair, they have a full set of plans. I have to build like that. There's no way around it. And it's very specific. So that's one thing. But yes, it's better to get a breakdown from a contractor to understand what you're getting, because otherwise he's going to say, I didn't include that. That's an extra 500. I didn't include this. Oh, you want to switch for the bathroom fan? You want a fan in the bathroom? Then you say, hey, you're supposed to put a fan in the bathroom. And he goes, well, you didn't tell me. That's an extra $500. I have to put a switch. I have to wire, I have to cut open, I have to put it in. It has to exit through the side of the house or through the roof. This is, you know, and they could get, and they know this. They're getting you on this. You know, there's many little things they could get you. So breakdown and being specific, but going into how to choose the contract, I want to continue with the bidding. So you get this from 3 different contractors. On it, you'll see a guy that gives one number. On another one, you'll see a guy that spent the time to give you line item by line item with pricing. This is a guy you're like, okay, he may be $2,000 more, but he's including everything that I need that I asked him. It looks like he's willing to work with me. So I like this guy. Number 1, he's number 1 on the list. Then you go to number 2 and number 3, you rate them. And then you have your conversations with them. Can you see yourself working with this person? They're like a partner to you. You're working with them for the next 1 month, 2 months, 6 months, or even a year, depending what it is. So you have to say, I like this guy's personality is great. He could give you the best budget, but he could be the biggest, pardon my French, asshole you've ever met. I don't want to work with assholes. I've had enough of them. So I'll throw him out, even though he gave me such a good quote, and I'll have to find another contractor to do the same thing and see if I could find a guy like that. So look out for these types of things. And of course, first question, are you licensed and insured? Are you licensed and insured? You have to prove it to me. From the beginning, not at the end. We have to ask. They'll say, yes, 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 I'll send it to you, I'll show you. But you have to put it in writing and make sure that you've asked them multiple times to know that they're legitimate and that they went that extra step to go to the city and become a real contractor. You know, and if you find the good contractor that you really like and it works out the first time, you just go with this guy. You make him like your partner. You say to this guy, hey, if you could finish this in 2 months, I'm going to give you 10% on the construction costs on top, because you know how much money you're going to make. You control him and he's going to be there for you. He looks at you as a partner as well, that he has continual business and that you're very fair to him and that you appreciate him. It shouldn't be that, oh, he's a contractor, I'm going to treat him like shit. Nobody wants to be like that. The contractor, if they think you're going to treat them bad, they'll treat you just as bad, if not worse, because they're in control of the money and your project. So unfortunately, if you're sitting at a desk in Tel Aviv or Beersheba and you've got a project going on in Atlanta, what are you going to do? You should be nice to the guy. And that's also part of what we need to discuss about. How do the American, let's say it's an American contractor, view the Israeli investor? Okay. And I'm going to be honest with everybody here, and I'm sure all of you know this. They think Israelis are very shrewd and how do you say, short-tempered type of people. Short-tempered meaning you flip, something goes bad, you maniac, you this, you that, you whatever, they yell at you, they curse you out in a second.
They are not wrong.
Go do it, then I'm going to smack you upside the head. You're not, even if it's an Israeli that's they'll do the same thing, or a Mexican guy, it doesn't matter. They're gonna rip you to shreds. You can't do that because you're used to it. You know, you go on the line, you push each other and shove each other. It's like, yeah, we're used to it in Israel. Okay, I'm gonna push to get to the front of the line. I have a friend, he says, when I go to Israel and I'm standing online, I'm online for an hour because everybody's pushing me out of the way and I'm such a nudnik, I don't know how to get to the front of the line. So yes. So the perception is there. Is it everybody? I don't think it's everybody, but they think that Israelis are very smart, which they are, and they're shrewd businessmen because they don't take shit from anybody, right? Every Israeli out there has training, and they have training from an army, from a commander, punching them in the head, make them go run, go do push-ups, sit-ups, go shoot, go do whatever I tell you, right? And they're out of the army and they have a toughness to them. People here, they never had that. Their mother still cooks them dinner every night. Okay, these guys probably go back to their mama's house when you guys like, I've been cooking dinner since I'm like 16. Like, what do I, you know, I know how to live on my own. I know how to do things, and nobody's going to mess with me, right? Because if you mess with me, I lose. I can never lose. So you have to know how to justify your anger sometimes, which means, okay, if you know you're going to fire the guy, go crazy, call him every single name. I'm going to fire you. I'm going to sue you. You're a piece of garbage. Goodbye. But if you still want to keep them around, you have to control yourself and not go to that level of anger inside to yell at them, because it's never perfect. When you start this business, nothing goes perfect. If you know how to work through your problems and manage the person, right? It's like you know, when you go to war, there's little battles, right? You win some, you lose some, you win some, you lose some, you win the war if you make money in your project, right? So there's battles, right? You're gonna have to lose some, even if you know you're right, you have to lose it. The extra 500, okay, but you're gonna do this for me. Here's $500, go get it done. I don't agree with you, but I like you, I want you to finish. But you need to do it by Wednesday. You need to do it by next week. You have to give them parameters so that if they don't do it, like, hey, you asked me for money, I gave you money. You didn't do what I asked you to do. Why are you asking me for money again? Now you can play the game with them. You need to be smart about it, not go crazy from the beginning. You have to pick and choose your battles that you want to win. Because in the end, the ultimate goal is to finish the project and make money. That's it, right? We're all in this to make money, not to be best friends with our contractor. But once again, if you find a good contractor, you keep them and you roll with them. You keep going until sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes 3 projects and then the guy's no good because he thinks he's too much of he's making so much money on you. He's great for you and everything. And now he's going to start charging more. That's why I'm telling you, if you say, if you finish by this time on budget, right? I'm going to give you an extra 10%. I'm going to give you 5% of what I made, right? We made 100,000, give me $5,000 right now because you were amazing. Here's a $5,000 bonus. It goes a very long way. And this way, he's not going to keep increasing the price. He's going to know he's going to do it for a very fair price, and he's going to make money on it if you make money. And by you making money, it's if he's doing his job. Like I said, it's like a partnership.
That's something that I want I'm among my people. So you need to understand, and this is something very important. They need to make money. They need to make good money, especially today, to want to do it and to want to do it properly. Because we can try, but it's not a good idea to try to get everything possible out of them. Because at the end of the day, very quickly, especially if their cost goes up or whatever, very quickly they're going to lose any motivation to finish this project properly. So we need to be able, and we have more to lose than them. So we need to show this level of flexibility when hiring them, but also understand them while we are working. Because if I agree with a guy that he's gonna do a project for me, $100,000, and cost went up 20%, and now he's not making money from his end, there is no reason to finish this project. And if I'm not showing some flexibility on my end, given the fact that we agree on $100,000, this project is not finishing.
You have to do it. You have to do it. No matter what, you need to finish the project. That's the whole point. Your goal is to finish the project, not to get stuck. Because if you just want to fight, you're going to be stuck and you can't finish your project. And then you may have the same issue with the next 2 contractors. You have a guy there, you work it out. And if you're losing a bit, it's okay. Because this isn't your only one deal. You want to do dozens. You want to do 1 a month, right? You want to do many of them. So don't get caught up on one little thing. See the bigger picture.
There is another complication into it of replacing constructor in the middle. And I'm sure Mark gonna tell you, no constructor want to take over somebody else's work because they didn't know what they did. Especially if you're talking about cement and it's closed and you can open it and you can look at what they did and it's already closed. Literally, they're gonna come and say, we don't want this job. So if you have a constructor that you can work with, you should do everything possible to keep them, even if they don't like them. to let them finish.
I could go into how to take over, but I got a few texts over here with some questions
there is some question,
that's relevant. So Gil asked, how can we get most accurate rehab estimate from the contractor? So like I said, you give them a scope of work that you feel is necessary. If you have like a real estate agent that knows the business very well, that could help you. If you're not here in the States, if you have a very good real estate agent, they should go in there and know exactly what needs to be done. And if they're working with you over and over, they should be able to write up that scope of work and understand it, show you on FaceTime, you walk through it. And if you have the experience, you could add to the scope of work. So what Gil is asking is if we should give them the pricing on it, just show them the pricing that you think it should be. So I don't know, it could go wrong. It could go right or wrong. When you give them a list and you say, this is the pricing I want, they're going to tell you you're crazy and run away, and they're not even going to bid it because they know they're not going to come close to it. So I would give them the chance to come back to you with their price. And then you go through their prices and your prices. Some of them are going to be the same and some will be more. So you call them up and say, okay, I understand the tile is this, but why is sheetrock so much more? Can you explain why I came up with this number and you came up with that? Let him do the work first, because if you give him the numbers and he thinks you're way too low and there's no way he could work with you, you'll never get prices from anyone. So I would say give them the scope of work and let them come back to you with their own pricing.
Okay, thank you. And what about the first question?
The other question was payments method.
Yes.
To contractor that Gil asked. So payment method, on a big project or small one. If it's a small project under like 25,000, I would go 50-50 if that's it, 50 up front, 50 at the end. Sometimes people want to do 25%, 4 times over. Or you could start at 10, then you split up the middle and then leave 10 at the end. There's many different ways of going about it. Every single project really is different. It's very different. And as you start doing this, you'll see the way it usually works, because as a contractor, I shouldn't say it, but as an end user, I would say you want to be ahead in the money all the time, right? You want to be ahead. You don't want them to be ahead of you and they could say goodbye, because that gives them the upper hand, that gives them leverage. You want to keep it equal, and you a little bit more, sometimes they're a little bit more, but never too far. Always try to keep it there, and then you'll figure that out how to go with that. And then I got a question about square foot pricing. This goes into, I think, what Tal asked and Eyal of, with pricing doubling, do you recommend buying existing or flipping or building new, which we'll get into shortly, Tal, when you let me know to get into it. But square foot pricing is, I could tell you in Florida, from what I'm looking at, you're starting at $200 to $300 a square foot, but that's for nicer buildings. But I don't think you're getting less than 150.
Okay, I want to say something about square footage, pricing of square footage, and this is something that terms-wise, because a lot of people, when I discuss, for me it costs $120 and for me it's $200. When we're looking at price per square foot, one and the other thing that we need to look is, what do we mean? I can ask somebody, what is the price per square foot? And he's talking about what's called a hard cost. Hard cost means bricks, wires, and whoever connect them, okay? When I talk about a price per square foot, I talk about total cost, which is soft cost. How much the architect cost me, how much the engineer cost me, how much permits cost me. So for me, price per square foot is different than somebody looking at it as hard cost as well. I personally also include financing cost into soft cost. So now you're looking at a total price per square foot. So when you guys asking somebody what is a price per square foot or getting a price, understand what that price included. Because I can tell you that I had a conversation, I think it was with Sagi, and he was talking hard cost and I was talking total cost. And we're having a conversation, but we're having a different conversation. So even between people that do this for a long time, each one is just the matter of their habit or what they're used to and how they did it before. And the first, okay, so I asked Sagi, you talking about hard cost? Say, yeah, I'm talking about hard cost. And then we understand the difference. And we found out that we actually pretty much the same price when you're looking at the total cost. So this is about price per square foot. It's a little bit more than that. Sorry.
once again, it's all matter very, very important to go into the terminology. Like Carl said before, if you have the understanding about what you're building, is it 2 stories, a 3 stories, it's a front loader, it's a shared driveway. What is the development cost? We have utilities, we don't have utilities, selection. It's a whole philosophy, you know, but the deeper you go into it, you better you understand that.
Yeah.
Then you avoid something that Mark may be going to agree with me. It's the nastiest thing when a GC comes to you and say, change order. The meaning of change order can take you from making money to losing money. And the more you go, like the vent situation, there is a vent. Where is the vent going to be? How many switches? As detailed as you can get, that's the bottom line. That's going to save you a shitload of money, especially in today's market.
On the rehabs, for sure, yeah. But when you build new, you have a set of plans, right? When you have plans on the larger level, on a broader view, is you have architectural plans. They could be this thick or a few pages. The GC has to own it. You're building according to page 1 through 10 and everything that's in there, and make him hold to it. Okay, this way you know what you're getting. If you want something changed out or something different, you're going to have to ask for it. It's a change order. So when you have a document that, whether it's a scope of work or architectural plans, that is holding the contract, you can always go back to and say, you agreed to this, right? It's fine. No, it says bathroom fans. What, you're not going to put a switch for the bathroom fan? You forgot it, not me. I told you we need a bathroom fan, right? So you have an argument. When you have no argument, they have full advantage on you. When you have something to back you up and you could show the piece of paper where you signed and it says here, you're doing a bathroom fan, you have nothing to say, Mr. Contractor. It says it right here, you signed it. Then the contractor is going to turn around, he's going to go do it. Okay, you're right. My fault.
Connected to the light switch.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, but then you say, "Oh, you're going to put a fan and it's not going to work." You know, like
you're putting a clap switch.
That's also I always recommend, especially to the guys, and there are a lot of guys here from overseas. If you don't live, you know, where you build, and you cannot control it on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, have like a turnkey kind of agreement with your GC. After you went into the scope of work and you make sure that everything is there, then you don't have to start dealing with everybody else, to deal with the electrician and the roofer and the plumber, because especially when you live overseas, to my opinion, it's a mission impossible. And those who able to do it, I salute you. I mean, for me, when I'm traveling back and forth, it's insane.
There is another thing that I don't know, Mark, you mentioned it, but people that live overseas are not familiar with that. To get even if somebody show you that he's a licensed contractor, yeah, you need to check the rules of the state, because in New Jersey, to be a licensed contractor, all you need to do is pay $75 and show that you have insurance, and that's it. In California, you need to work in the industry for 5 days and show pay stub and have somebody to sign for you and vouch you that you really know what you're doing.
Yes.
Standards are different.
Exactly.
Yeah, standards are different all over, but listen, if they went through the trouble to get their license, that's one thing out of the way, but there's many other aspects to it. They could be very nice, they could be licensed, but they may just say, okay, your whole job is X with no scope of work, no real pricing, and they're the lowest bidder. You have to be very careful from the lowest guy. So that's another problem that I see also, not saying particularly for Israelis, but foreign investors, is that if it's a $50,000 build, right? You know it is. And somebody comes in at 30, okay? 20 maybe is all of his profit, plus he's paying out of pocket for the project. But you're like, oh my goodness, he could do it for 30. Let's go, yalla, let's go. 30, okay, make 20, da da da. Okay, you know it's impossible. So why are you expecting him to do it? He'll never finish. Then you're gonna have to change him out in the middle and spend double, because you're gonna have to go to another contractor and he's gonna have to pick up where this person left off. And that will take us into taking over from another contractor. So you have a bad contractor, you're asking him every day what's happening, he doesn't answer you, he doesn't respond to you, something's wrong, right? Or he's yelling at you, or he's saying, pay me money now, I need money, and this and that. You know something's wrong with him. You know he has no money, you know he's running out, and he's just using you to maybe pay for his next project because someone else is yelling at him more. So you need to be in touch with the contractor to see that things are bad. When you see no progress, obviously something's bad. So what do? You fire the guy and say, okay, you can't come back to my property. I forgive, I cease and desist. You write inside an email, never come back to my property. We're done. You want to sue me, who cares? I don't care, but I don't owe you any money. You stole money from me. We're finished. Now you bring in the next contractor, right? The new contractor is going to say, I don't want to take over because this guy was horrible. I have to redo everything, right? That's how that guy's going to make more money too, right? So you got to be careful, okay? You yourself have to know if the guy did a very good job or a very bad job. Get someone you trust in there to look through it. If you have a real estate agent you trust, let the real estate agent go through. They should understand construction pretty well if they're feeding you flip deals. They should know a lot about that industry. So going back to it, let me start. I'm going to take another step back. There's a book called Buy, Rehab, Rent, Refinance, and Repeat, BRRRR. It's written by Brian Green. He's a real estate investor from California. And he, you know, like Sagi said, you need to live there. Brian is different. He's like, no, this is how you don't have to live there in order to do house flips. But he didn't really flip. He bought, he renovated and rented, and he refinanced and pulled most of his money out. That's how he made his money. Maybe some people in here do that, maybe not, but it's a form of this business. And what he said was, you need to find a rock star. Let's say you want to go to Alabama or Tennessee, whatever. Let's say you want to go to Tennessee, and in Tennessee, you find, you call 30 different real estate agents, you find this amazing person that has good energy, and they throw you all these deals, and they say, okay, Tal, this is what you need to do on property 1. This is what you need to do on property 2. This is your resale. This is how much it could rent for. This is how much you could flip. That type of person that's feeding you this valuable information and it looks legitimate to you is what you would call your rock star. This is your rock star real estate agent. Then you say, okay, Miss Real Estate Agent, do you have you're an amazing rock star real estate agent. You must know the best mortgage broker out there. Yes, I have the best guy already. I've been doing this for 20 years. This is my mortgage. Okay, wonderful. Now we got the mortgage. Mrs. Rockstar, who's your favorite contractor that you've worked with? You flipped 30 homes over there in the past 2 years. Who's your contractor? Well, he's very busy doing my stuff, but I know 3 other people that are very good. Okay, so you go through, again, you have to start with nobody wants to give their best contractor to you, which is what I'm trying to say. They don't. They keep that for themselves. That's where they make their good money. But they could recommend 3, 5 other people to you that they know are good that other people use, right? You could take it away from their friend, but not, yeah, that's the book. Buy, Rehab, Rent, Refinance, Repeat. This guy has hundreds and hundreds of houses doing this. And that's what he do. So, okay, so what did I say in the beginning? I said, you need a good referral from someone that could say, okay, this is a contractor I recommend. If you're going through Google contractor in Tennessee, you get 5,000 people, right? You're going to get hundreds of people and you're going to have to call every one of them. But when you get referrals, it's the best way. So you speak to the referrals and you could, ask them the questions, vet them out and see if they're good and if you could get along with them and go. So this is how you choose your rock stars in the areas so that these are your go-to people and you promise them, if we could do this very, very well, I have 10 more houses that I want to do with you. And these people will they may have heard it before. If they like you and they get along with you, they're going to believe you that you're going to do another 10 houses with them if this one goes as planned. And they're going to work very hard for that. So this is his way of saying how to be an out-of-town investor to make money in multiple cities. It doesn't have to be just one. So I recommend reading that book and seeing how he did it and try to take some of his lessons of how to pick out the right people in these areas. So he's a very good source of, he's a very good writer, has a few different books out there, but that's the one I would recommend in that type of business.
I'll put it again up if somebody wants to take a look. David Green with an E at the end, so it's Green with an E. It's by the
I get no
bigger
commission
pocket,
on
the bigger pocket guys.
He's a podcaster also.
Yeah.
What do you call them again? The
bigger pocket, the bigger pocket.
Yeah, Bigger Pockets. He used to be with them. I don't think he's still with them, but yeah, Bigger Pockets podcast, which I don't know. I think your podcasts are better than Bigger Pocket podcasts. I listened to a few of them and I got nothing out of it.
It's a very basic. It's a very basic.
And you think you're getting very good advice, and then it just goes to nowhere. I'm like, I thought this guy was like, I'm waiting to hear something good, and I hear nothing. But yes,
it's a very basic.
I have a question.
Sure.
Mark. Okay, so I'm Nama, and I'm a real estate in New Jersey, northern New Jersey. So what is, beside the fact that there was no inventory, what is the biggest challenge that you see for yourself now?
Besides finding, is finding materials in a timely fashion. You know, that's really it. And also finding good subcontractors to do the work. The good people
dealing with your partner.
Yeah, that's another one. But yeah, it's really finding good subcontractors as a contractor and also as a house flipper. You got to find the good subs. These guys are so busy right now. They're so busy, and they're also tied up because they can't finish projects because of their material that needs to be ordered, and their prices keep going up. Piping prices just went up another like 20% for piping. It's crazy. So that's the biggest thing, is the shortages of material and the pricing going up, and shortage of good workers to do the work for you. And it's all through connections.
The prices going up is not so much of a problem, because you just roll the cost to the price of the house or the cost of the repair. So that's not so much of an issue.
In a good middle class area, yes, it works. In the other classes where Sagi and who was the other guy that said it, Rosen.
So you can sell.
Also.
Yeah, Shmuel Rosenblatt. He said, it's much harder to raise your prices in areas that people can't ever even imagine it's going to be that high. But yeah, it's the same thing over and over again. You know, there is no inventory. So how do you, as a real estate agent, find inventory? You speak to people, you call them up, you have to go the extra mile.
You make your own deal now. You just create deals. You just go to people that might sell, and you just ask them.
Yeah, what would make you sell? In the community I live in, it's hard to find a house here, but the real estate agents will say, hey, if I could get you X, would you be considering it? And people will say yes, and sometimes they'll move and sometimes they won't. But yes, that's it. You have to create the deal as a real estate agent to make these things happen. And as a real estate, as whoever in here looks for their own deals, you got to send out your flyers and say, I will buy your house for cash, whatever it is. Make phone calls, try to figure out a marketing scheme. I don't know how well it works. I'm not a good marketer. Eyal's a good marketer.
It works.
I'm not, but yes, there's many different ways of going about it. You just have to think outside of the box. Another thing you hear all the time.
Sorry, Mark. So you just, I'm just trying to get into an open subject that you said about reinvent and there's no land. So what's your look on, what's your take on development of a land?
Development of land. It's a very, it's much different than flipping homes. It's much different than buying rentals. It's a whole different ballgame of understanding the land itself and engineering and what it takes to take a plain piece of land to make it habitable so that people could live on it. With my experience, I'm obviously, no matter how much experience, you're always learning. So I'm always learning, and it's a big learning curve when you go into land development. It's not an easy thing. I'm still right now learning about it, even though we're doing it. But you know what? I don't know anyone that's an expert, even the ones that do it all day. Unless you've been doing this for 50 years and you have all the material and the equipment to move land, I will take your word for everything, but it's a learning process. Every single municipality is different on how they go about it. And it's not easy. They schlep you along, but don't forget, when they see that you're persistent and you continue and you're trying hard to work, you're going to get to that place. Persistency in the United States always, meaning I will not stop, which is why Israelis do well in the US, because they will not stop. They will continue. You can't say no to me. I will continue and try, and they succeed. There's no in, you know, can't say, look, you know, no one can. Like, you smack them upside the head and you keep going. That's it. You have to always move forward, right? Because in the Israeli army, they say, if we back up, we're in the water and we lose, right? We're in the, we always have to advance against our enemies or against our opposites that trying to push us down. We have to advance as well, but you have to do it in the right way, not by being overly, crazy, but not by being a bully. Exactly. You have to do it in the right way, and you have to lose many battles to win the war, like I've said, and that's all part of it. You have to think about it in advance. You always have to, think about it as a whole. You always have to think like, okay, I could imagine this and this happening, but these are the bad things. Okay, I have to know the bad things that they're going to ask me so I could push forward. So always have to think about it. Like, always constantly brainstorm, speak with your partners, speak to people that know this type of business, find a mentor in this type of business to run something by, to understand what do you think about this? Is it over? Because, once you feel defeated, you don't want to move forward, right? It's a bad feeling. But maybe you're wrong for feeling that way. So speak to someone about it. It's not just you, and it's not just you. You gotta, that's why I believe Tal is doing this, so that everybody has somebody to speak to and ask questions to, and maybe have a mentor to discuss. I mean, is Tom on here? How come Tom didn't ask me a question yet? Mr. Gelman, me and you go way back. If he hears me, he'll chime in. But but that's something that we have to figure out. So going into land development, it's great now because we don't have enough homes. We're short millions of homes. To build in areas that have no inventory, you're solid for still a couple of years, even with interest rates going up. But you have to think in the back of your head, the interest rates going up is not gonna, there's more people that
still need to get mortgage. Like, they're not gonna stop paying mortgages.
Yeah, you still need to get it. It's not the end. It's not going to 10%. It's not going to 7%. It's not going to, it'll go to 5, 5.5, 6 over another year. It doesn't happen overnight. They don't go boom, here you go, a whole point. They do little by little, and they have to increase it, which is okay. But your circle of people that can afford gets smaller and smaller as interest rates go up at the price you want to sell. So you have to be careful. You have to. So in the back of my head, I mean, Eyal could tell you, I'm sending articles to my real estate agent, goes, what the hell are we going to do? Everything's going up. I'm putting all the pressure on him. Is he on here, Eyal? I'm putting all the pressure on him to think about it as well, not just me. I don't want to be the only one thing. I want him to think. He's got to sell. If he can't sell, he doesn't make his commission. So he needs to think about this. How are we going to come across it? What's your marketing plan on how to do this? Should we sell early or not? I don't know. Maybe we should hold on to it and sell in 6 months from now, because the pricing will go even higher. But if the interest rates go up, I really think that it can't go that much higher. We're going to lose out on a lot of buyers. So we have to be very careful. We have to think about it now, 6 months in advance, a year in advance, 2 years in advance. Where are we going to be? Right? What's our worst case scenario? Do I rent? Right? Let's say you can't sell, so you rent. The rental market's going to be great when people can't buy. Yeah. You need a home over your head, right? So worst case scenario, you rent. Always. Every project we go into, we always try to figure out, what is my worst case scenario? How do I battle that? Okay, it's also a question every investor asks there, as well. How do we battle worst case scenario? What's the worst thing that could happen? Okay, if you're building new, the worst thing that happen is rent. You refinance and you rent. No big deal. It's fine. Then I think, Tal, we went into to build high-end multi or go to larger, small types of deals. Is that what one of the questions you had earlier?
The question was, how do I decide, or when do I decide if the construction is more right to do as something to sell, as a product to sell? Do I build to rent And if I do, where, and what will be, Sagi, correct me if I'm wrong here with the way I described the question. Do I build to rent, which is better for me, and if it is, where? Do I do homes or condos? How do I choose what type of product I produce?
Okay, well, right now it's hard, right? Because you're looking for something specific and there's nothing available. There's no inventory. So if something comes to you that you're not typically used to, how do you adapt to it? And what's right or wrong, right? If you're only buying to rent, it's a very good business. I always believe rentals is like in the long run, the best thing you could do, right? If you know how to build and develop, it's also amazing, especially when there's a shortage. So I have a very, my background is extremely high end to high end, and I could build the lowest end, I could build the highest end. I've done everything in between. So in regards to what we started this off with where the market's going, higher end people, 1 million, 2 million, 5 million, 10, 20, there's a huge need for it. This is the last section to go when there is a bust or a recession. The uber wealthy will afford, they're paying cash. They don't care about the interest rates. They're paying cash. Doesn't matter. They have the money. It's crazy how much money they have, but they have it. High end will last the longest. So if you want to do something high end right now, jump into it. Go for it. It's going to sell. Multifamily, right? Multifamily to buy, always great, as long as your margins are good. To buy to 3% margin like people do in Brooklyn and New York City, or 2% cap rate, I wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole. Born and raised in New York, I wouldn't touch New York City if you paid me right now. That's the way I am, because it's too expensive and the margins are too small. I'm used to margins of 10 to 15%. Why would I go to 2 to 3 and spend millions of dollars to get there? Yes, it could double. I could refinance out and have millions in my pocket like a lot of my friends do, but that's not for me, right? You have to figure out what's for you and what's not for you. That's not for me. My long-term would be to, develop and build to rent. But we have to be able to afford the construction process. That's the biggest battle. So I would say in 2 years from now, when this big bubble kind of comes in a little bit and comes down and shrinks a bit, to buy to rent or develop to rent is a very good business. Right now, I think high end to build right now from scratch is an amazing business, but nearly impossible to find. It's very difficult. It's really, if you find something, right? If it comes your way, grab it. If you know how to do it. If your thing is to go to Section 8, right, and deal with Section 8 housing, understand all the rules of Section 8. Understand how much they're going to pay you with a new building. There are different levels. If you have a 40-year-old building that's a piece of garbage and all they care about is that you have running water and a smoke detector, okay, they'll pay you $800 a month. But if your margin is at only at 3, 4, 5%, one bad roof leak, one bad problem with your boiler or hot water tank, there goes your profitability in it. So, that's why, and Tal, you could say to this, I don't know about everyone else's holdings, but when you have multiple, when you have a lot, you mitigate your damage. Meaning if you have 100 rentals, okay, 1 or 2 of them goes bad. You always have a percentage, 10% won't do as well, but 90% will do well. So you got to keep buying and going. Don't be afraid. Just keep going into it and buy more and rent it and deal with it. Right now, the rates are still low for commercial loans. You could still get it done. You could do multifamily as a rental all day long, every day. People, no matter what, especially in this, what's going on out in the world right now, it's a roof over their head and they're going to pay their rent. They need to stay there.
Rent always work, because if prices goes up, there is people that are being out of the market because they can't afford to buy. So they go to rent. If the market crashes, people can't buy even if they want, and they go and rent. So rent always work. And as Mark said, and people that had this discussion with me knows, volume protects.
Yes.
So let's say in the United States, even during the pandemic, between 85 to 90% of the tenants made regular payments. So if you have a one property, 1 or 2 out of 10 got totally in trouble because they didn't receive any rent. So if you are the other 8, great. But if you are that's 2. But if you have 100 properties and you're you still have 90 units paying rent, and this mitigate the rest of the 10 or 15 that doesn't, and there is always cash flow coming in, paying for expense or whatever it is.
I want to ask something about multifamily.
Mhm.
I know it's different from where you are. What do you pay, like in your area, for per door, like as a multifamily? Do you have any idea?
In South Florida, you're paying like I would say $200,000 to $350,000 per door. It's very expensive down here, even in bad neighborhoods. I looked at a 16 unit, it was like $3 to $4 million, and the ceilings were like 7 feet. It was disgusting. And they sold it eventually. I didn't want to touch with a 10-foot pole. I'll wait till the next when the bubble busts or goes down, and then I'll go into that for very cheap, for half price.
And also, do you have problem appraising? If, you know, do you get mortgages, or how do you do your flips?
So flips, a lot of times we have, I would say, an investor that has the full amount, and we don't have to go to a bank. So when we were doing flips in Atlanta and whatnot, we had an investor that put in all the money, and it worked out very, very well. Less paperwork. It's like 2-page or 1-page document. We have a very easy agreement, and we go, and it was the best thing. Instead of calling up the bank and you got to do the inspections and da. When you go to the much higher level, yes, you need the bank, and we'll have to deal with the inspections and whatnot. But yeah, it's, in regards to the banks and appraisals, depending where you are, in the higher end areas, you're going to appraise because something sold for more practically. But if you're in a lower income area and you're the highest price out there, it's never going to appraise to where you need to be. So it's either I really want this, and I'll pay cash to make the difference and make sure you have that. So it's not going to be an 90-10 or an 80-20, it'll be 65, you know, so, or even 50. If it's worth it, then you'll have to try to find a way to make it happen with the bank. You'll put up that money because you agreed to that price, right? So then it's worth it to you in your numbers.
We just including now certain things in the contract, in the initial contract, that they will pay the difference, that they're not waiving appraisal, but they're willing to bridge the gap.
Yeah, and there's so many buyers out there that if someone tells you that I will not bridge the gap, say sayonara, next person will come in and do it.
True, so true. Yeah.
It depends on the market, though. I mean, it's not. You know, I keep hearing that, and I see, you know, I'm on Facebook, I'm a member of many other groups, and I see people are bragging that they're putting the house on the market, and within 2 hours, they have like 100 potential customers coming in. I can tell you what's happening in Houston and my neck of the woods. It's a bit different story, and I can think that in the past few weeks, we can feel the market getting softer. So it depends, you know, to ask also, it's like how much you pay per square feet. Where, what kind of a product, you know?
That's true. Yeah.
If you know, if you want to be in this business, you know, you at least fake it until you make it, and you have to talk the language, understand the terminology, you know, and then things are going to look different on your side because you're going to make hopefully less mistakes. The more you know, and like those Zooms that Tal is doing, the network, to make it more available to everybody. You know, people there, you know, I answer question on, you know, on a weekly basis. People are either calling, texting, emailing, you know, just connect, ask, you know, it's free.
What we need to do, I think, is a business idea is find a way to transport houses from Rochester to different areas. So you just cut them,
Move them.
and it's been done before. You know, it's not
Not cheap.
what?
No.
No, but today with the material shortage, maybe it's a good idea.
Yeah, it's worth it. With a tenant, by the way. With a tenant. Any more questions for Mark?
Yes, I have a question from another angle, and I just want to hear your 2 cents. And I believe there's a small problem because your partner is here. So it's so again, it's
just cut him off.
My partner knows I have no shame, so it's okay.
Okay, great. So
I don't think he's here. He's too quiet, so I don't think he's here.
yeah, let's see. Maybe according to the answer.
I'm here. I'm here.
I'm getting comments by WhatsApp. Don't worry about it. I'm getting comments by WhatsApp.
Okay.
I'm getting comments.
Okay,
by
so
WhatsApp.
okay, so my question, I'm going to the next level. Let's say that I have that the contractor is my partner. Okay. Now, of course, he's most of the time there. I'm most of the time here. How do you split the profit?
I mean, when you
Like,
have
I
your
know
partner,
again that there's sorry, but no. Of course, there's no like it's all at the end. It's what you decide on, of course. But like some kind of, I don't know, maybe guidelines, maybe again we are doing it. We are doing it for a long time. But all the time, there's all the time like these questions that arise.
I have a very good answer for you. I hope it's good. I hope you think it's good. So. First of all, you have your agreement with your partner from the beginning. That's when you go into partnership. You say, okay, we're 75-25, 50-50, 70-30, whatever it is. You have your agreement, right?
Yep.
And depending, let's say, for instance, we're 50-50, because that's what would make your question fair, that it's equal, but you feel one guy is doing more and the other guy, okay, he's there and I'm not. And, will they come back to me and ask a question? So, I won't say from our experience, but we have multiple projects in different states anyway. So we try to pick up the slack for each other where we can. Obviously, my construction experience and knowledge is more, which my partner will agree all day long. And, and he always has me if he needs me, right? And we also have local partners that help us with it that also have very good experience, that understand it. So the real answer is this. You should speak to him about it and say, hey, you are there every day. You need to get paid for your time, because let's say, I don't know how big your projects are, how long they take. Let's say the project's a year long, right? Is it fair that that person is over there working there every single day and he's not going to get paid until the end, right? He's a contractor. So he should get a contractor fee, and he should give himself some money on top beyond where your 50-50 split is, in order to cover those things. He's traveling, he's maybe going out to eat with people, buying lunch for the workers or Dunkin' Donuts in the morning, whatever it is. And he's in his car, and his gas is very expensive right now. He should cover his expenses and his time that he's putting that's different. So maybe I wouldn't look at it as the profit, more profits going to. I would say, okay, for this project per month, because you're doing X and I'm not, take this per week, take 500 a week, take 1,000 a week, take 100,000 a week. I don't, whatever you agree to, do it that way. This way, your profit you could split, but he feels better about himself because he's making money while he's working, 40 to 60 hours a week on the project, which is maybe 20 more hours than you, or 50, or even completely more. Let's say your thing is just to look online and find property is very important, and your project, and you're supposed to find investors. Okay, you find investors at the beginning, but then you have 6 months of work. You did your job at the beginning. Thank God you got it good. Without this, you couldn't have it. That's why you're 50-50 partners. But if it's every day, and it's not like 2 months to get an investor, it's every day for 6 months to a year, then maybe he should make a little bit of a salary to cover himself, to feel good about himself, that he doesn't go to you and say, hey, this isn't fair. I work so hard. And then that breaks up the whole relationship, because he's asking for 70% when you originally agreed to 50-50.
Okay.
Management fees.
Management fees. Yeah, there's such thing.
It's a legitimate fee to take. It's
totally.
There is a cost to all of this, and there is a cost to...
People don't understand that they can sit in the comfort of their home with a PJ, having their, I don't know, coffee or scotch, whatever, and somebody else is running on the other side of the planet.
Oh, no, believe me, I understand. No,
and troubleshoot everything on the project.
Mark, Absolutely, you gave a great solution. I didn't think about such a solution, and it's a great one considering the times we're in.
I'll tell you something about that. Ariel po. Ariel.
Scott?
Ariel Shalom is here? No. So I had an investor that is a very nice guy that works with us, came to visit us, and he came for a few days with me to Rochester.
You can say Peter Luger.
Yeah. No, I didn't take him to Peter Luger because he eat kosher, but at the end of the trip, after trip, he came to me and says, I didn't realize how much work behind the scene is going on into this to make this work. When you see it, especially in Israel, and do I have a Lilach here? Kostya? No, they just came. They went. And like when you're in the field, it's look different than when you are at home. And when there is a construction that is being done, and you go there when it's snowy, Amit can tell you, or whatever it is, and things doesn't go well. It's look different when you are dealing with it versus sitting at home and hearing about it. It's two different things.
I also think that there is not enough preparation. People could sit in Israel not being in the ground with things, but educate themselves. Like Mark said it before, like learn a lot about what the component of this whole business is. I think there is not enough.
I would make a suggestion that if you are into doing renovation, at least 1 week, you need to come. You know the show Undercover Boss? So you need to come and join the workers to see how it is, and then give you perspective. Any other questions for Mark, guys?
I have a question.
Ladies. Shalom, what's up?
Good. Mark, thank you for your time. A quick question. We are in the process of designing a new construction project here in Houston. And I wanted to hear from you a little bit about your experience and your tips about how to help the city understand that they need to support people like us who are coming to make the city better and build houses in what seems to be sometimes when a city doesn't understand that the current situation and the current condition is what we need to deal with, and they will need to support us with variances, allowing us to...
Donation, it's called donations.
Basically allowing us to work with their current guidelines in order to make the city better. And I wanted to know obviously you had experience with that, I'm guessing, but what is your role as a developer in this process? Do you feel like your gravitas is important? Can you tell us about where do you need to step in, where it's better to leave the professional to deal with them?
Got it. So you're developing a project, multi units, I guess I would say?
A very small project. We have a piece of land in a certain shape. We want to build probably 6 to 8 properties over there, and some changes that went.
So you're looking for zoning changes or variances to get passed?
Mainly, we are in the need of variances, and we understand that we're going to have a little fight with the city of Houston, and I wanted to hear from you how to harness and how do you explain the city that they need to work from you, to keep having a little piece of land in the middle of the city that no one can walk.
Got it. So Houston is a massive city. It is tremendous. You could probably fly across it in 20 minutes in a little airplane, or a half hour would take. It's a huge place. And they have different, it's Harris County. Is this what you're dealing with? Harris? So it's for something, if it was like a massive development, they know all the big developers already, and they know how to work with them. If it's a new person coming in to develop something that they need to rezone and change everything in busy times, they're going to be reluctant because, okay, it's too much work, right? You have to show them that it's not too much work for them, that you're taking this piece of land that's irregular shaped, that you're going to make it for homes for people, and that there's a shortage of homes, and you're making use of something for something nicer. And do you have visuals that you could show them on how nice it'll look in there, instead of just being an empty piece of land that doesn't do anything for anybody? Did they ever say, oh, it has to be a park? How long has it been empty? Like, okay, Harris County, it's been empty for 100 years. I'm the one person coming in to try to help out and make it into something, instead of a barren piece of land that you have to come and you have to mow the lawn, or someone has to take care of it, or you're going to get complaints from neighbors saying this land is not being kept properly. You have to show them the advantage of you being the developer. What's the advantage of them going with you and giving you the approvals? Obviously, when you go with the variances, it has to be voted on by the neighbors. So I would work the neighbors and say, hey, they're called abutters, right? So you go to the neighbors and say, hey, this piece of land has been empty. No one's been taking care of it. I'm assuming these things, by the way. I don't even know what it looks like. So I'm going to take this. I'm going to make it nice. You know, people are going to pay taxes. It's only better for this community. They're going to keep it nice and do the lawn and have some, like, you know, there's something nice here for it. Like, why would you say no to this? Because there's going to be noise for 6 months. Okay, someone built your house. Did you care about the other person when they built your house? How come they didn't stop you? What happened if you were stopped and you couldn't use? You have to speak to your neighbors first and get them to like the idea. Okay.
Worst case, just buy them.
What?
Worst case, just pay them, pay the neighbors to be with you on board.
Yeah, you can. Depending on the neighborhood, they couldn't care less. There wouldn't be enough to pay that. I don't know what type of neighborhood this is, but yeah, that's a potential. You know, and just show them how you're going to make things better by doing so. The other thing is you also have professionals in zoning that you're going to have to hire, maybe a zoning attorney or something like that, to help you push this through. Because if they're coming back at you and saying, oh, zoning doesn't allow this and it doesn't allow that, and you're building too much, does it make sense for your project to build 5 and make a little park over there, you know, instead of 6? Maybe that helps them. You know, you got to brainstorm with a professional lawyer, zoning attorney, to try to figure that out and bring these ideas to them. Because I honestly, I don't know what they're telling you, but if they're very against you, it's either they're being very lazy, which is true of the city folk, you know, of the people that get paid by the city, or they don't want to be bothered with this project because they know someone else tried it 5 years ago. What happened? So maybe look into the history of it and see if anybody tried to develop it years ago and what their problem, or just say, hey, what's going to take me to get this done? Or someone told me last night, a friend of mine, he works with developers. He says, developer comes into the city and he says to them, where do you see yourself a few years from now? You can't say that to Harris County. They're so huge. You could say it to a small county in Massachusetts, but Harris County, you say, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Like, we have like 4 million people here. What are you talking about? It's a bigger uphill battle, but it's a bigger uphill battle, but also it's a huge city where maybe they like growth. They've been growing for 50 years already, 60 years. So they should understand growth and want people to develop. I don't know why they wouldn't allow it. They may have a reason. You got to find out that reason and make sure you answer all the questions. Without the answers to all their questions, they're never going to approve it.
How much the tax aspect of it help them take a decision, which mean, okay, this is a non-paying piece of land right now. And once we're going to have 5 or 6, taxes going to go up from that to that, and the city going to make more money. How much that affect them as an argument to approve something?
It is an argument. Listen, money is money. It will help out. You're going to have, if you have 6 units there, obviously they're going to pay taxes, which is great. And maybe within Houston and Harris County, they have small little areas all over the place. And that will go to that area of them, you know, getting money out of these people going there. But like I said, it's such a massive city that, or county, that it's negligible because they're building 5,000 units on the other side. So that's difficult. And on the other end, I'll tell you, in my experience, is that it would help out and get small towns out of debt. And you're still going to have these, as my cousin calls them, a yatzmach. These guys are saying, oh, what about this? Like, we're getting you out of debt. why would you not like give us a big hug and kiss at this meeting instead of making us come here every other week or every other month to beg for this to happen? And that's what they want. But they want to be very careful, because if they screw up, it's all on their shoulders that they destroy their town. So you got to look at it both ways of how they're thinking too. You know, so it's huge cities, small cities, there's always going to be pushback. You got to be persistent, as I said before.
But you have to bring something to the table. For example, what Shalom said for city of Houston, unless you are in town, Frank Lu, which is the giant in Houston, they care less. I gave up a project. The city wants me to lose 30 units just to complete a cul-de-sac on a dead-end street. 30 units, 30 tax-paying units. Why? Because it's city of Houston, and you know what's happening in Houston. It's inflated in new projects. So without, God forbid, you know, underestimate what you're doing there. But if you're coming with 6-8 units, especially, and I know where you're building, so you can try. You know, you have already from yourself. So maybe the city is going to give you something that you're expecting them to give you.
And election contributions.
Yeah.
You think I'm joking, huh?
Mm.
Election contributions. What?
No, it's tough. You never know if you should give a stack of cash or not. Like I'm always against it. Always. If you give a stack of cash, people will be like, how dare you?
No, formal. No, I'm not talking about
under the table.
Under the table. Proper election contributions. By the way, this is part of the game of every big developer in the area. It's part of the deal.
Yeah, but you're already the mayor over there.
What?
In Rochester.
In Rochester, they're not smart enough even to understand you know that the guy was in Rochester. It was like, oh, this guy spent so much money in the election. You know what the number were? One candidate spent $75,000 and the other one went crazy, and I think they got to $120,000. That was the numbers. But fine. Any more questions, guys? Anybody? Mark, last words.
Yes, sir. Last words? Well, hopefully it's not last words, but the bottom line.
Today, not last word total. I didn't really total last word. You know what's gonna happen? We're gonna walk away. Something gonna happen to you. You're gonna say it's Tal. That's gonna be on me. No.
So basically,
Tal, be careful, Tal. Be careful.
I truly enjoyed this. It was great. There are a lot of great questions. I'm hoping that at least everybody, I was able to help at least all of you or some of you today with some of my answers and some of the experience that I've had throughout this time in these businesses. And as always, if there are any questions, let me know. You could ask Tal. I could always try to help, but I'm sure there's a lot of people on this show that can always answer questions as good as I can. And then that's it. I really enjoyed it. It's like a kind of a humbling experience to be asked so many questions and not being the one to ask them, but actually to answer them. And it's been fun. And my experience, we should all share our experiences together. Like I always said, it's never only you in the room. You should always find somebody to speak to and consult with and brainstorm with and continuously do this. But surround yourself with people as good as you, if not better, to try to advance in this business. Because it's not an easy business. We all think it's very easy, but it's not. Some projects are very easy and others are hard, but it all balances out. It's a wonderful business. It keeps you strong mentally, keeps you very smart as well. And it also teaches you how to endure a lot of pain to of people constantly telling you no, just like an insurance salesman, which I've sold life insurance in my life. So I've been told no a lot. And, I come from a diverse background of different types of jobs until I realized that, construction real estate is the best thing. I sold life insurance for New York Life in New York City. I used to stop people in the street and get their information and sell them life insurance. One of the most difficult things in the world. And I said to myself, I could do anything. I'm done. Like, I think I've sunk not really sunk to the bottom. I know many wealthy like beyond wealthy life insurance salespeople and all that, but it wasn't for me. I love building. I love working with my hands. I love understanding the process of taking something from nothing. And, when I would look at New York City and say, I worked in this building, I did that building, I did that. I know, because I have an uncle, my great uncle, he's no longer with us, but he's been in Israel since the Holocaust. He built himself a tremendous window business. Maybe some of you heard it, maybe not. And he would, when I go to Israel to visit, he'd say, Mark, that building, we did it. That building, we did this and that. And since, as a young kid rolling around in his car with his private chauffeur around Israel in the 90s and 2000s, and even before then, I was like, I need to show that I've done something, built something with my hands, and that it could be viewed by my next generations as well. And that's exactly what we're doing here. You could put up a building and you could drive by one day and say, hey guys, daddy did that, or grandpa did that, or uncle did that, whatever it is. It's a very good feeling. If you're an accountant, right? I did that tax return. Nobody sees it.
Israeli took it to the next step, and every second building in Israel, the developer actually put his name on it. So
yeah, like Azrieli.
Yeah, Azrieli, Gozlan, whatever you want, you go, and there is a name of it's like the Trump. Everybody's like the Trump one.
Yeah.
I'm doing it here as well, by the way. It's always good.
I got it.
But Mark, I want to a little bit simplify and expand something that you spoke about the construction. It's very important. When you choose a constructor, it's first, before even you decide, there is a lot when you're talking with, after we bought the property, the next amount that we are going to spend, it's on construction. And during the way, when we are talking with constructions and get offers and quotes, there is a lot of alarms that, sometimes because we are really want to start with a project or running or don't want to lose time, we don't listen to them, or we listen to them, but we are ignoring. And it's very important, even, if the project is going to wait 1, 2, 3 months, whatever it is, to choose the right person and feel that it's the right person. Even if it's not move as fast that I want to, the mistake will be much more, nights without sleep and spend money or whatever it is. It's always the most important is to choose the good people and someone that you can trust.
Yeah.
And of course, go deep.
And some of that you get along with. You should get along with them. You should have a good feeling. When you speak to someone you like, you get that feeling of good. If it's bad, it's going to go bad. You need that good feeling, especially when you're doing it through the phone, even of course in person, but for some people it's over the phone. So you got to be careful.
And another thing that I want to say that I'm doing here, also in amount of units at the time, the way I work is always the constructor bring the black materials, the concrete and all the rest, and all the white materials, tiles, toilets, whatever it is, I buy directly. Home Depot, there is a lot of, so you spend a lot of money also by buying the material yourself instead to get the contractor, to buy for you and get the commission on top of it.
Yeah.
So it's also save you a lot of money. But it depends if you're really in the place or you need someone to do it.
You're able to do it, yes.
Yeah, but it's
and
also
it should be in the
like
contract. And it should be in the contract. So you are responsible for this, and I am responsible for that.
Yeah, but it's saving also a huge amount, from the percentage at the end.
Yes.
Okay, it was beautiful and great, and
Thank you.
to see you again.
Nice to meet you. Nice to see you.
טל, הגיבור, אייל, התגעגעתי אליכם מאוד, איזה כיף לראות אתכם, איזה אנשים, יאללה.
Thank you.
I'm going to say the last words. First of all, Mark,
Yes.
it's been amazing. Thank you very much. I think I thank you on behalf of everybody, the one that left already and the one that's still here. Cheryl and Dror is Dror, a very cute picture of the baby. Thank you very much. We really appreciate it. You're very knowledgeable, and you sharing it with us was, I'm sure, going to be very helpful for a lot of people. Guys, as usual, I'm going to send a recording of the conversation with Mark in the next couple of days. And if anybody has any questions for Mark through me or wants to contact him directly, I'm sure Mark going to be happy to assist. And the conclusion will be probably that you need to hire him. So clear your no, don't do that. I was joking. Until next week, we don't have a Zoom. I must say, we don't have a Zoom. The next couple of weeks, we don't have a Zoom. But after that, we're gonna have a fuck up story. Eyal already volunteers for it, but we're gonna have a fuck up Zoom where we tell the stories about our fucked up deals that didn't work out. So that's gonna be the opposite of what you do.
We all have it.
Yeah, we all have it. Guys, thank you very much. Have a great week.
Thank you, Tal.
Bye.
Thank you.
Nice meeting everybody.
Thank you, Mark.
Bye. Take care.
Everybody, thank you.
Yeah.
Let's do the STR number 3.
What?
Let's do the STR number 3.
We'll do the what?
The short-term rentals number 3.
אפשר גם את זה, we'll do it. After I'll come back, we're going for vacation. I'll talk to you guys. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, thank you.